Hey gang, Sean from the Commander's Brew. Welcome to our deck tech for Old Stickfingers, a new commander from Midnight Hunt. Just between me and the Black Lotus behind me, this one's a fun one. Check it out.
Okay, here we go. It's Old Stickfingers. Brand new deck tech from Commander's Brew. Sean, let's get into it.
All right, I'll walk you through the emotional journey I had after we read this commander. So here is what Old Stickfingers says. Legendary creature, horror, star. The cost is X, black and green. So we're talking Golgari. When you cast this spell, reveal cards from the top of your library until you reveal X creature cards. Put all creature cards revealed this way into your graveyard, then put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. Old Stickfingers' power and toughness are each equal to the number of creature cards in your graveyard. So if an X in the commander's casting cost is interesting, because first cast, you put X creature cards in the graveyard. And in the future, when you've got a big graveyard, Old Stickfingers can come back pretty big, but you don't need to, like, X can be equal 0 and you can pay the 2 tax, so 2 black green. We just won't get the benefit of milling any extra. And that is sort of how we're planning to operate. Once we get a healthy graveyard, I mean, we don't need to get even more things in there. We can, but the commander tax doesn't really affect Old Stickfingers too harshly, which is interesting. Now, what do you do with it, right? You cast your commander, you put a bunch of stuff in the graveyard, you probably want to reanimate it, right? I racked my brains. I was in the Discord for a while and I was like, this is not inspiring, because what are we going to talk about? Like, the different creatures to reanimate? Like, or can we find a theme of those? I don't know. And it occurred to me, we recently did True Voltron with Sir Gwyn in Mardu colors. And that's what we did again. We did a True Voltron of Old Stickfingers. Now, if you didn't listen to the Sir Gwyn episode, I recommend it. True Voltron decks are super cool. I will go into it again in less detail here. If you want more detail, go back to the Sir Gwyn. But the gist is, we brew 4 sub-commanders, 4 lieutenant commander decks, each of 25 cards. They each have their own little commander and 24 cards within it. They're all Golgari in this case. And they all do something that is highly synergistic within itself. And then at the end, when we're done, we kind of mash them all up together, but we put Old Stickfingers as the real commander, and we have to take 1 card out because that adds up to 100, and we have to have it add up to 99. So we'll just remove like a land from the math. It's no big deal. And like, there's only 1 Sol Ring. There isn't 4 Sol Rings. Anyway, that's how it works. Here's the benefits of it. Brewing is so much more interesting because we're not just getting a million redundant things of the exact same thing. We're brewing 4 little decks that work well on their own, quote unquote. We'll never see them on their own. It'll all be mixed together, but they also synergize together. So depending on the weight, if you get more of Lieutenant Commander A and C, the deck plays a certain way. If you get more of D and B, the deck plays a little bit differently. But in all cases, Old Stickfingers helps the deck out. Old Stickfingers putting stuff in the yard will help all of our strategies any way we slice it. That's the theme. So normally we would talk about the vegetables, the standard stuff. I'm going to move that to the end because having the context of who our lieutenant commanders are will provide a lot more context for that. So we're just getting right in. Hang on to your pants, everybody, because we're going right into the meat moves.
Working on a
Meat. Had a hard time thinking how to brew Old Stickfingers, but I did not have a hard time coming up with 9 cards for each of these lieutenant commanders. 9 cards is the math when you figure it's a 25 card deck. One of them's the lieutenant commander. Some of it's lands. You have a couple of spots for mana rocks, ramp, removal, veggie type of stuff. And then at the end of that, you've got 9 highly synergistic cards that do the thing. Lieutenant Commander number 1. Andy, why don't you take this one?
This is Reihan, Last of the Abzan. 1 black green for the legendary human warrior. It's a 0/0, but it enters the battlefield with 3 +1/+1 counters on it. Whenever a creature you control dies or is put into the command zone, if it had 1 or more +1/+1 counters on it, you may put that many +1/+1 counters on target creature. Great, right?
Yeah. So the theme of Reihan's little Lieutenant Commander deck is +1/+1 counters and sacrificing. If we have creatures that gain and wear +1/+1 counters well, and we have a couple of sack outlets, we can get into combat with some very big augmented creatures, and whichever one isn't blocked, we can do a last second sack and move all those counters to another one. That's great. I love that. So who are some of the great players in the out of these 9 cards? I've highlighted 3 here.
Yeah, well, first we have Golgari Grave Troll. This is one of the best graveyard filling cards there is, really. 4 and a green for the 0/0 again. It enters the battlefield with a +1/+1 counter on it for each creature card in your graveyard. Pay 1, remove a counter from it, and regenerate it, which is sweet. And also dredge 6. This is the huge upside to this card, obviously. Dredging it, getting it in the grave. Sometimes you'll just pay the 5 to have it come down as a 0/0, and just because you want it in the yard to dredge, right? Like it's worth it to do that. But then you get the dredge and you fill up your graveyard. It's really, really great.
Well, and I want to I want us to always keep in the back of our mind that this is all under the main commander of old Stickfingers, right? Like I would love it if Stickfingers got a grave troll in the
incredible.
graveyard. Yeah. Yeah.
Not to mention the interaction Golgari Grave Troll has with Reihan, right? Like that's an incredible interaction. If you kill it, to put those counters elsewhere, it's really great.
Yeah.
We also have Pelucranos Unchained, 2 black green for a 0/0 zombie Hydra legendary. It enters with 6 +1/+1 counters on it, and it escapes with 12. If damage would be dealt to it while it has a +1/+1 counter on it, you prevent that damage and remove that many +1/+1 counters. So it kind of has like persistent damage a little bit. 1 black green you can pay, and Pelucranos fights another target creature, which is awesome. And then you can escape this card for 4 black green, which is that you exile 6 other cards from your graveyard, and then you cast this from your graveyard. Great. Strong.
Card's fantastic.
Huge, massive creature. Same thing goes for this. And then finally, here we have Feign the Broker. 2 and a black for a 3/3 human warlock legendary. It has 4 abilities. Tap, sack a creature, put 2 +1/+1 counters on target creature. You can also tap, remove a counter from a creature you control to create a treasure token. Tap to sacrifice an artifact. Tap, sacrifice an artifact. Create a 2/1 white and black inkling creature token with flying. And pay 3 and a black to untap Feign. Feign is the trading post of, I don't know, counters and 2/1 flyers and treasure tokens. I don't know.
But if your theme is +1/+1 counters and sacking creatures, look no further. He does them both.
Feign's incredible. It really is a very good card.
Yeah. And so, right, like that, like this is all fueled by old Stickfingers. One of the veggies I want to highlight because, because now in the Reihan deck, in the removal category, this is Outland Liberator. 1 and a green, it's a brand new transformable one from Midnight Hunt. It's a 2-mana 2/2. It's a bear, human werewolf. Technically not a bear, but we call bears 2-mana 2/2s. And you can pay 1, sack this, destroy target artifact or enchantment. This is the classic, sack a creature to destroy an enchantment. It's very similar to what's it called? Reclamation Sage, because it still costs you 3 net. It costs you 3 total to do it. Yeah. But in this one, you get control over when you do it. It also has transform, so if it becomes Nightbound, it turns into a 3/3 with that same sack ability. But also, when it attacks, you get to destroy target artifact or enchantment defending player controls.
Oh, nice.
Don't know how likely it is to turn to night, so I wouldn't worry about that. But just a 3-mana sack something, and there you go. Like, we love sacking creatures. Put some +1/+1 counters on it. Maybe it attacks a bit. Now we sack it. Those counters move somewhere else because of Reihan, and we've gotten rid of a troublesome enchantment or artifact. Great. That's the tight theme of Reihan. And Reihan plays well with another Golgari Lieutenant Commander, and that is, I forgot to put the Lieutenant Commander themselves. Sorry.
Varolz. I love it.
Yeah, Varolz the Scar Striped, 1 black green legendary troll warrior for 2/2. Varolz says that each creature in your graveyard has scavenge, and the scavenge cost is equal to its mana cost. So you can pay the regular mana cost again while it's in the yard and put +1/+1 counters equal to its power on one of your creatures. You can also sack another creature to regenerate Varolz. So Varolz is yet another sack outlet if we need it. And so the theme of this Tight 9, of this little Lieutenant Commander deck, is big for their casting cost. I'm looking at creatures like Splinter Fright. It's 2 and a green elemental, and the power and toughness is star. The way the rules on star creatures work is they always are a value. So Splinter Fright is not a 0/0. Splinter Fright is whatever. Well, I'll tell you, it has trample, and its power and toughness are equal to the number of creature cards in your graveyard. Old Stickfingers is perfect for this. So if there's 6 creatures in there, Splinter Fright is a 6/6 in no matter whatever zone it is in. Nice. That it's a 6/6. So for 3 mana, we can scavenge this out to put 6 counters. I gotta look up the rules to see if it'll see itself when you try to use it, that ability, if it counts itself as one of those 6 or not. But I'm off by 1 at most. You get a lot of counters for your 3 mana off of Splinter Fright. Not only that, if you can cast it normally at the beginning of your upkeep, put 2 cards of your library, mill yourself 2 at the beginning of every upkeep while Splinter Fright is out. Amazing. This card is perfect for the deck, and perfect specifically in Varolz.
Yeah, there's games where you just want the Splinter Fright milling ability to just, like you're just like, this is all this is in here for. It's great.
Totally. And so like we're starting to see why these Lieutenant Commander builds are so fun, because each one does help the other ones in a different axis. So like it doesn't matter what combination they come out in, it's going to be fun, but a different flavor of fun. Splinter Fright, another one of these big for their casting cost, is Plague Reaver. This one's a bit mean, but I like it. 2 and a black for a 6/5. That's pretty undercosted. At the beginning of your end step, sacrifice each other creature you control. That sounds bad.
Yeah.
However, you get to discard 2 cards and sacrifice Plague Reaver, choose target opponent, return Plague Reaver to the battlefield under that player's control at the beginning of their next upkeep.
Yikes.
So they'll need to discard 2 cards or sack their whole board. They could send it back to you, but this is the kind of deck where I don't mind creatures going to the graveyard, because makes the rest of my stuff way better. So it helps us much more than it helps anyone else. Or it just 6+1/+1 counters for 3 mana. Was what it could be too. And then just on a smaller scale, we've got Hidden Horror, a classic in the genre. 1 black for a horror. When it comes into play, sacrifice it unless you discard a creature card. Perfect. I'm happy to. And it's a 4/4. So you're getting 4+1/+1 counters for your 3 mana that way. And that's with Varolz. That's some of the Tight 9, but as I said, we got some veggies for each one. This is a ramp veggie. Andy, what's a good ramp veggie in the Varolz version?
I mean, Marwyn the Nurturer is real solid. 2 and a green for the 1/1 legendary elf druid. Whenever another elf enters the battlefield under your control, you put a +1/+1 counter on Marwyn. And then she taps to add an amount of green equal to Marwyn's power. Of course, we don't have to worry too much about elves, because if we're going to be scavenging things from our graveyard, throwing those counters on Marwyn will just make her huge, and then therefore she can tap for a ton of mana.
Oh yeah, there's like a nice so maybe I can get away with putting 6 counters on for 3 mana, but that just means I'm getting 6 to tap Marwyn, so it's like I've netted 3 mana to put even more counters on by casting something else from my graveyard.
That's right.
Super fun. So it's 2 Lieutenant Commanders. +1/+1 counters is they do share that theme, so a hearty part of the deck is messing around in that realm. But this other commander is a little more veggie focused. Andy, who's the next LT?
This is Glissa the Traitor. Black, green. No generic mana cost in this commander's mana value. Very interesting to me. Legendary, a zombie elf, a 3/3 with first strike and death touch. That's another great thing about this. Another interesting thing about this card, I should say. You don't ever see those 2 on the same card like naturally. That's just they're never put together.
No.
So Glissa the Traitor has it. This is a classic card though. Whenever a creature an opponent controls is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, you may return target artifact card from your graveyard to your hand. Interesting.
Okay, so if we can put artifacts from the graveyard to our hand, and old Stickfingers is the main one, these are all mostly going to be artifact creatures, which we will just be putting back in our hand to cast again to do more stuff with. I'll be honest with you, this Lieutenant Commander contributes more to the vegetables section. But Andy, talk us through a couple of these big players.
We've got Armix, Filigree Thrasher here. It's a 2 and a black for a legendary golem. It's a 3/2. Whenever it attacks, you may discard a card. When you do, target creature defending player controls gets -X/-X until end of turn, where X is the number of artifacts you control, plus the number of artifacts in your graveyard. So that could be a fairly high number. You could be killing things with this. Discarding cards, getting them back with Glissa, obviously, is very possible with this, right? Like, throw an artifact into the graveyard, attack with Armix, and then kill the thing, get that back. Like, what a cool move there.
I want to give you a little context in the Lieutenant Commander idea. So these are obviously all artifact creatures, but when you look at the big picture, I'm trying to make a point. I didn't talk about it, but like, let's get one artifact creature in the Reihan deck. Let's get one artifact creature in the Varolz deck, just so that each one. So like when Glissa shows up, the Glissa portion is even better. They all kind of help each other out in different ways.
This one is so good. Traxos, Scourge of Krug, 4 mana for the legendary construct artifact creature. 7/7 with trample. It enters tapped and doesn't untap during your untap step, but then whenever you cast a historic spell, untap Traxos. Well, one thing I've been noticing about this deck is that there are a lot of legendaries, not to mention we're talking about artifacts here. So those are all historic spells, and I think like Pelucranos, Feign the Broker, I can't remember if those any of the ones that you read.
Oh, Armix.
Marwyn, right? And not to mention the Lieutenant Commanders. We just said Armix, exactly. Armix ticks both boxes. But like that's a lot of untapping of Traxos that we're doing there.
Yeah. And like maybe Reihan's showed up and you've thrown a bunch of +1/+1 counters on Traxos, and that's just this ginormous trampler. Or maybe Traxos is in your graveyard and Varolz lets you pay 4 mana to add these 7 counters onto somebody else.
Nice.
Like, I love Lieutenant Commander decks. Like, they're so fun to brew this way because all the little connections just like going off. It's fun. It's fun.
I love it.
And as I said before, most of the Glissa section does contribute to the vegetables, right? It's because like once we know that we're going to be able to get artifacts out of our graveyard fairly easily, obviously we're going to run mana dorks that are of the artifact variety, like Copper Mirror, and the black version, the 2 mana mirror that taps for green or the one that taps for black. We've got Moriok Replica. This is a 3 mana artifact creature warrior, and you can pay 1 and a black to sack it, to draw 2 cards and lose 2 life. That sort of like Sign in Blood kind of effect on this thing. Salvager of Ruin. So it's a 3 mana artifact creature, 2/1, and you get to sack it. Choose target permanent card in your graveyard that was put there from the battlefield this turn. Return it to your hand. I mean, I will point out again, like there is synergy here with the Reihan portion too. If you've got you can put a bunch of counters on Salvager if Reihan's out, and be like, oh, you know what? You're trying to kill it, but this guy's going through. I'll just sack Salvager, throw in. I'll put all those counters on somebody else, and they'll just get through, no problem.
Love it. I love it when it comes together like this. This is great.
Yeah. We got one final Lieutenant Commander. The theme of this one is just big, thick boys. And Jarad Golgari Lichlord is our commander. Andy, take us through some of these synergy pieces.
Yeah, well, Jarad is black, green for the 2/2. He gets +1/+1 for each creature card in your graveyard. 1 green, black. You can sacrifice another creature, and each opponent loses life equal to the sacrificed creature's power. If anyone if you ever sit down with someone who's playing a Jarad deck, look out. Games can end in a hurry with this card because of that ability. But it also says sacrifice a swamp and a forest. Return Jarad from your graveyard to your hand. Ooh, okay, very good.
we can get Jarad, like if Stickfingers puts Jarad, I mean, we have some reanimator spells as well, but like Jarad can get it himself out of the graveyard if we really wanted to. So cool. So cool.
This one's got a lot going on. But if we're talking just big boys, well, Night Howler gets real big in this deck. 1 black for the enchantment creature Horror. It's a 0/0, but it and the enchanted creature, because it has bestow for 2 black. It and whatever it's enchanting get +X, where X is the number of creature cards in all graveyards. Very important there to note. So this in Commander, I've never seen this card be less than like an 8/8. You know, like it's just always massive.
Well, and the beauty when you bestow this, like if you'll recall, whenever a creature that has been bestowed, like you can. How does this work again? If you kill the creature that's it becomes a creature like if you kill it, then just the Night Howler itself exists.
Yes.
Like so you can sack it twice with Jarad, and it's like huge both times.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's a killer with Jarad. It's like it's a really really great card in that deck. Yeah, and in this little deck, and then also we have Hogak, Arisen Necropolis, 5. And then 2 hybrid Golgari, so 7 in total. For the legendary avatar, it's an 8/8. You can't spend mana to cast this spell. It has Convoke and Delve, meaning that you have to like delve and or convoke this every single time. You may cast Hogak from your graveyard, so that's going to be a nice plus. And then it has Trample. It's an 8/8 plus. It's an 8/8 with Trample. This is weird because of where Trample is on this card. Don't you think that's weird? Right? It's last. Like usually it's like those evergreen keywords are like first, right? For the most part.
Didn't they? I feel like I remember a time when they were moving that stuff around.
Yeah, maybe.
For like they're like, oh, we want to change the order of how we write stuff. I feel like I read that once.
Anyways, well, they did it here for sure because usually, as far as I know, Trample's early, but huge 8/8 creature here, Hogak. This is fun.
Yeah, I mean. Yeah, so I'm not going to go over all 9 for each lieutenant commander, but they're all of the similar variety, and you can see like they all play together. Again, I said this in the Sir Gwyn episode, but the best part about these decks is when I was looking at old Stickfingers at the beginning, I was just like, well, I mean, I kind of already know what this deck is going to do, and I got to come up with 100 cards minus the lands that kind of do that thing. Like that just it felt boring to me, but this was not boring. And it's even more interesting to play because it plays out slightly differently every time you bring it to the table. Whereas like now it's like, oh, you know what? I'm really focusing on the +1/+1 counters this time. Or it's like, you know what? This time it's a little different. This time I'm reanimating like Traxos, and Traxos is getting the work done like with a few counters. That's all we're doing this time. I haven't talked about all the veggies, but a lot of our draw comes from those how big is your biggest creature type of draw things. So like we can potentially draw the cards in the realm of the dozens at a time if it plays out right. But we also have a lot of little creatures that appear, give you a card, and then we can sack them or put counters on them to make them bigger. Who knows? But one additional card I do want to highlight that is just really cool. It's from the D&D Forgotten Realms Commander decks. This is Dance Macabre. 3 black for a sorcery. Each player sacrifices a non-token creature. Roll a d20 and add the toughness of the creature you sacrifice this way. If I sacrifice a huge creature, I'm basically going to hit 20 every time. 1 to 14, return a creature card put into a graveyard this way onto the battlefield under your control. That's either the one I sacrificed or one of the ones my opponent sacrificed. Or if I roll a 15 or higher, which I probably will, return up to 2 creature cards that were put that way under your control. My opponents are probably not going to sack high value things, but each player goes down. Like I'm really mostly just like, I want to bring back one thing. And if it's kind of big already, it's going to guarantee to bring a little buddy with it. Yeah. It has to be a non-token creature. So your opponents can't sack tokens. There are worlds, otherwise you couldn't get the card back, right? They can't get around that. Yeah. So there are worlds where it's like you only have one really good creature and a bunch of dumb tokens. So I'm getting your good creature.
Nice. I didn't see this card. for some reason.
It was from the Forgotten Realms commander deck. I mean, we're in the era where there's so many new cards. It's too easy to miss them.
It's very easy to miss them. I bet you there's a lot of cards from this commander set that I didn't get a full glimpse of. Like, I feel like I saw this card and I was like, oh, what does it do? Okay, oh, all right, yeah, all right. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
kind of a glance at it, and then, but now I'm looking at it, I'm like, hey, this is pretty fun. Noticing that it's a non-token creature, for example. So yeah, that's great.
Yeah, I mean, thanks to the Discord for... also wouldn't have thought of Dance Macabre, but thanks to the Discord for bringing that up. Mm-hmm. Sometimes you need a little context to kind of remember these things. Definitely. So let's thank the Discord people who were in there. Chiefy, always in there first, right, with some of the like early suggestions. Nosrak 2, Mr. Big Bents, Mattisman, HP Jones 10, Micah Eternity's Crafter, Brave Sir Robin, Too Much Dew, Nickel Doodle, Groove Chicken, The Wizard Cops, Gee Pizza, Loki Dragon 87, Neo Maxis, Papa Dio, Sloth Bear 55, and if I missed you, I'll get you next time. I'm sorry.
As always.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's the thank yous to our patrons over there in the Discord. Hey, if you would like to get in on that, go check out our Patreon, patreon.com/commandersbrew. Check it out. But that just means that now it is time for the budget report. Okay, where did we come with this one? Another True Voltron deck here.
Really good. $81 mid, $40 low.
Not bad. I like it.
Not bad. And there's some definite cuts we could make. The most expensive card right now is Lord of Extinction. It was reprinted in Ultimate Masters. Yeah. It's the 3 black-green elemental, star, power toughness equal to all the cards in all graveyards. So, I mean, our graveyard will probably be the most full, so it doesn't get a massive bump from all the other ones. But I mean, this thing could be a 5-mana 30/30, so like it's a good card. Is it $10 good? I'll leave that to you to decide.
Right. I get it. We also got Death Shadow. Oh, it's in here. Great. Yeah, this is the single black.
Price came down.
Yeah. I think, like, do people still play Modern? I don't know.
Well, I mean, I don't, but and then the observation in the Discord was like, this deck must have really fallen way down the tier list in Modern.
Because it was like,
only $6.
it was like Death Shadow was like every deck in Modern for a while.
Yeah, it was dominant.
Yeah, and there was several versions of it. It was wild. I remember getting one while it was at its height and being like, well, I might want to build a Varolz deck at some point. So I held on to it. So yeah, very good in the Varolz section of this deck. Single black for a 13/13, but it says that it gets -X where X is your life total. So very often you will pay a single black in Commander to just have this go directly to the graveyard, which, again, if we got Varolz out there, that's not bad.
It's not bad, but this is a great time to illustrate. This is a $6 card. I left it in because it's nice. It's a nice example that it's gotten cheap. Mm-hmm. So if you're a Varolz player, throw it in. But we cannot brew Lieutenant Commander decks assuming we will have the Lieutenant Commander. Mm-hmm. They're still in the 99. It's still a Stickfingers deck. If we don't have Varolz, there's not a huge chance our life total will be much below 13. So this creature is a largely do-nothing card, unfortunately, until Varolz shows up, who may not show up at all.
Yeah.
So when you're brewing these kind of decks, you can't go super focused. So this is a cut. Save yourself $6.
Absolutely, it's a cut. Yeah, you need Varolz for this to do anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I guess Reihan got up to $5. That's
Reihan's up to $5. I mean, these old 5 or 6, these old ones, they just only go up because it's good to have them to partner. And the more Wizards has shown that they will continue to make partners, and that just brings up the value of all existing partners because one could pop. Like someone comes out, this one pops. So like you should own them all if they're all cheap,
I suppose. And then here's what's one expensive one we did not run here?
We did not run Altar of Dementia, which is up to $9. It's a sack outlet that costs nothing to use, and it has unlimited uses. Anything that does that is going to be pricey. It's a 2-mana artifact. It's just a dream in this deck, I would spring for it. I mean, it's as much as Lord of Extinction, just swap them out.
Or just
Sack a
pay
creature.
$3 more and don't use Death Shadow.
Exactly. Sack a creature, target player, probably us at first, puts a number of cards equal to the sacrificed creature's power from the top of their library. You mill equal to the power. But as I said with Night Howler, with Lord of Extinction, with Splinter Fright, those will get bigger as we do this. So like it is like there are moments where you can be like, wait a minute, how many cards do you have left? How many cards do you have left? How many cards do you have left? Oh, I think I can make that much power and sack it and then just mill everyone out. Like that is possible.
I love it. Yeah, that's Golgari really good at that with Altar of Dementia. You know, Jarad decks who use this card can do stuff like that. It's wild.
And so we've got a deck that has 4 little bits of flavors inside that blend together nicely, like a lovely recipe. And old Stickfingers up top helps them all out as the icing on the cake. Perfect for a Lieutenant Commander. Didn't want to do it normally, but we do have some normal ones. Stay tuned for the Lost Cards episode. We'll show you some other brews for old Stickfingers. Yeah, are they as interesting as this? You decide.
Okay, well, yeah, like Sean said, come on back for Lost Cards when you see it pop up. Otherwise, we'll see you guys next week back here with brand new deck tech, brand new Lost Cards. We'll see you then.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for watching. If you love what we're doing, consider supporting the show by going to patreon.com/commandersbrew.
And if you want to get any of the cards from our deck list, go to our TCGplayer affiliate link below.
That helps us out too. And for a free way to help us out, consider sharing the show with some friends. Like and subscribe, add a comment or two.
See you later.
Bye.